to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. The next installment in the ongoing saga between Claressa Shields and Keith Thurman. Thurman on Claressa Shields. She ain't never seen no world-class footwork like mine. It's important to note that it was Claressa Shields that issued out the challenge to Keith Thurman. She thinks she can fight him. She thinks she can beat him. In my heart of hearts, I don't care about being in there with Claressa Shields, Thurman told Fight Hub TV. What I do care about is, in this day, if there's any way, any form, that I can gather money for charity for an all-children's hospital, for Shriners Organization, for the non-profit organization of my guru, The Art of Living, if there's any way that I can do something positive, cause I don't see anything positive, me punching Claressa Shields, ever. So I need that positive twist that I can be proud of, outside of just doing something different, doing an exhibition, doing something that's playful, but I promise you this, if it ever manifests, I'm still only using a jab. Well, Keith Thurman may look at this as a somewhat playful endeavor, experimental. I don't think Claressa Shields was playing any games. I don't think that was her intention when she issued the call-out. No, I believe that her intentions were a lot more malicious than what Keith Thurman's intentions are. What's she gonna do, Thurman said. Come on, man. You see that happening? Come on, man. My footwork, I mean, the girl don't... That's why I'm gonna use the jab only, man. She ain't never seen no footwork. She ain't never seen no world-class footwork like that. It's different. I would just want to show that you think you're in the same sport, but you're not. It is Claressa Shields, after all, that's looking to blur the line. Whatchamacallit, Serena Williams said it herself when they asked her, how do you feel you would fare against men? Williams said, men's tennis is a completely different sport, not even the same sport. From one of the greatest female athletes of our generation, let alone tennis, one of the great female athletes, she said it's not even the same sport. Same ball, same racket, but not same sport. The speed, the velocity, the average height of male athletes, the angles. It is Claressa Shields, after all, that's looking to blur the line. Blur the line between men and women, male athletes, female athletes. She believes herself so good that she can go in there and box with the boys. Is Thurman calling her bluff? She said it's not even the same sport. Same ball, same racket, but not the same sport. The speed, the velocity, the average height of the male athletes, the angles, and just the serves alone change the game. She knows her place. Obviously, Claressa doesn't know her place, and that's why I'd have to use a jab only. Claressa doesn't know her place. Claressa Shields believes that because she has dominated 3 of the most barren weight classes in the sport of women's boxing, she's ready to take on the guys. She's ready to box with the men. Not a good idea. I say barren for a reason. These are not weight classes that are densely populated, that have enough fighters in those weight classes to keep a fighter busy. I mean, why do you think Savannah Marshall's going to the PFL? Why do you think she's doing that? There's not enough fights to go around anywhere in between 160 and 168. Savannah Marshall understands that, but Claressa, for having dominated those weight classes, she's let it get to her head. She's let it get to her head to the point to where she has convinced herself that she could go in there with a male boxer and have a full-on fight. Have a full-on fight and win. Not just a guy, not any guy, not some guy off the street, an actual male boxer, a trained boxer, a former world champion in Keith Thurman. Did you ever hear about how Lucia Riker, then unbeaten in kickboxing at the time, way back there in October of 1994. Did you ever hear about how she went in there with a guy? Male kickboxer, Somchai JD. She was unbeaten. Unbeaten as a kickboxer, boxing other women. She goes in there with this guy, Somchai JD. He kicks her ass up and down that ring. He stops her, knocks her out in the 2nd round. He made short work of her. I don't think it's wise for Claressa Shields to tempt fate like this. I don't think it's wise for Claressa to attempt to blur the line that separate male athletes from female athletes, because she might learn the hard way. There's a difference. Differences in men and women and how they perform when a punch lands. Pounds per square inch. How much damage can you actually do to a guy? How much damage can he do to you? Speed. You know, she fights up there at 160 and 168, whereas Keith Thurman, he fights down there at 147. It's not his walk-around weight, though. She probably thinks she's got a size advantage, meatier bones than he does, more pounds of flesh. But how much of that is fat and how much of that is muscle? It matters. No, I don't think it's wise of Claressa to attempt to blur the line that separates male athletes from female athletes. There are differences that should not just be acknowledged, but honored.
Could be a humbling experience for her.
Go in there with Keith Thurman and he has his way with you, using just the jab. Beats you one-handed.
Could be a humbling experience for her.
And it's not like Keith Thurman is busy with anything these days. If you take it upon yourself to challenge him, the worst thing that could happen to Clarissa is him accepting her challenge.
Go playing with fire.
You're gonna get burned. You only called him out of all the guys that you could have called out. Somebody who campaigns at middle, a junior middle. You only called him out because you think he's low-hanging fruit.
Maybe to somebody else, maybe to another guy, not you.
Yeah, maybe he's low-hanging fruit to Terrence Crawford or Tim Zoo or somebody like that, but to Clarissa,
She wants it.
sounding more and more like Keith Thurman is willing to give it to her.
See what happens.
Men's super lightweight news. Reigning IBF super lightweight champion Subriel Matias says, Devin Haney, I want to fight you. He's en route to satisfy his mandatory challenger, Shohan Ergashev, and beyond that, seems he'd like to unify with some of the other champions at the weight.
He's on the wrong side of the street for that.
Devin Haney, I want to fight you, Subriel Matias told BoxingScene.com. I want this fight. Please give me the opportunity, despite letting his feelings be known. Matias will have to grab a ticket and head to the back of the line. Haney hasn't officially left his undisputed lightweight throne, not yet, but all indications point to him trying his hand in the super lightweight division. Opposite the ring, super lightweight champion
Regis Prograis.
I think that's supposed to be going down in December as a DAZN pay-per-view. It hasn't been officially announced, but preliminary reports seem to indicate that's when it goes down.
When it happens, when it will.
If Subriel Matias can hang on to the red belt, if he can hang on to the IBF title opposite the ring Shohan Ergashev, his mandatory challenger, he's got to change his decorum. I said it before and I'll say it again. He's not going to get any big names. He's not going to get any big fights on the PBC side of things.
In fact, I think he should have crossed the street already. He should have crossed the street months ago.
When he first caught wind that Regis Prograis had inked a multi-fight deal to Matchroom, he should have done what he could to do the same. He should have took one good look at the landscape at 140 pounds on the PBC side of things and realized you're not going to get Rolly Romero.
No.
Javante's not going to move back up, not for you anyway.
There are no big fights for Subriel Matias.
None.
On the PBC side of things.
And this is no recent revelation. This is what I was saying months ago. Now, Regis, he's already one fight into his Matchroom deal, and he's heading towards his second. All the while, Subriel Matias...
They're still working on this Shohan Ergashev fight, which is a mandated title fight. It is. It's his mandatory, but it's not a big fight.
I feel like had he crossed over to Matchroom months ago, when news first broke that Regis had crossed over to Matchroom, they would have taken care of this. They would have got this done by now.
He likes Devin to win the fight.
He likes Devin Haney to win the Regis Prograis fight and become this division's WBC champion. Perhaps that's why he'd like a fight with him, because he figures he's going to win, he's going to get that belt, he's calling him out, but that's not the only guy he's calling out.
Subriel Matias is also saying that he's not overly impressed with Teofimo Lopez, this division's WBO champion, saying he's okay.
The current IBF titleist isn't willing to give anyone a leg up on him. More than anything, he'd love to face any of his fellow champions in a unification. Lopez, of course, ranks near the top of his wish list. Regardless of what he's accomplished, Matias has a hard time falling for the hype. While he don't treat Lopez flippantly, Matias isn't willing to place him on a pedestal either. From his point of view, Lopez has earned his respect, but he's far from an elite 140-pounder.
He's on the wrong side of the street for that fight too.
Plot twist is that Subriel Matias used to be a top-ranked fighter, just like Teofimo. But after the tragedy, the tragic death of Maxim Dadashev at the hands of Subriel Matias, I think they sacked him. I think they canned him. On the premise that Subriel Matias were fortunate enough to get either Devin Haney or Teofimo Lopez in the ring, just that hypothetical scenario, stylistically, you would have to favor Subriel over Devin, but not necessarily over Teofimo. An aggressive mid-range to inside pressure fighter like Subriel Matias, a naturally bigger man than Devin Haney. Stylistically, he's all wrong for Devin.
It's based on styles.
You often hear it said that styles make fights from those who don't really know what that means. Stylistically, Devin's got the right style for Teofimo, Teofimo's got the right style for Subriel, and Subriel has the right style for Devin.
That's how it breaks down.
Pure boxers like Devin Haney don't fare well against pressure fighters like Subriel Matias, being economic, only throwing 1 and 2 punches at a time that don't necessarily have that much on them because you're fighting on the balls of your feet. You're not sitting on your punches.
It's not going to be enough to keep Subriel out.
If the pure boxer tries to fight a safety-first fight, a long-range fight, that doesn't fare well against the pressure fighter. Now, if the pure boxer tries to show some moxie and assert themselves in the pocket, that's even worse. You can't beat that pressure fighter at their own game, in their wheelhouse. That's where they want to be. You're doing half the work for them.
Pure boxers usually get overwhelmed by pressure fighters.
Pressure fighters like Subriel, usually they don't fare well against boxer punchers, in particular counter punchers, and at his very best, that's what Teofimo is. He's a counterpuncher. He can use the pressure fighter's aggression against him. He's the kind of guy you don't just stand in front of him letting him go. He'll make you pay for it. He made Josh Taylor pay for it in his last fight.
He can use your aggression against you. He's fast enough and strong enough to land with authority and land punches that you don't see. Those are the ones that do the most damage.
Based on styles, Teofimo's got the right style for Subriel Matias, and Devin Haney has the right style for Teofimo. A counterpuncher like Teofimo that's looking for an opportunity to land a big punch, a big shot, he won't get that opportunity with a pure boxer because pure boxers are economic.
A pure boxer can make a boxer puncher a counterpuncher look real fucking bad. Think Lopez versus Sandor Martin.
Danielito Zorrilla versus Regis Prograis.
It's that dynamic, that dichotomy.
A pure boxer, throwing only 1 and 2 punches at a time, managing the distance from a safe distance, makes a counterpuncher's job very, very difficult.
It's based on styles.
Now, there are other factors to factor into the equation. At what level does the fighter compete with that base style? How good are they with it?
A level, B level, C level, D level. How good are they?
That matters too. What nuances and unique and special characteristics does the fighter possess at the individual level, if they possess any at all, that takes them over the hump?
Puts them over the top.
Stuff matters. 140 could fast become a hotter division, a hotter weight class, if Subriel Matias can really get into the mix of things. Though right now, he's a man on an island.
By himself.
So long as he's on the PBC side of things, he's more or less out of the loop, out of the mix.
He's got to change that.
After the Shohan Ergashev fight, I don't even know that Subriel could go back over to the top-ranked side of things, given what happened. But maybe he can go into business with Matchroom. They have a good number of 140-pound fighters, fights that could keep him busy en route to a bigger one.
He likes Devin Haney to beat Regis Prograis.
Remember what I told you about styles? Remember what I told you about pure boxers versus boxer punchers, counter punchers?
Regis is a counter puncher.
We'll see what happens. Subriel Matias, if he wants to be part of big fights at 140 pounds, he's got to get off the island.
Personally, I don't think it should have taken this long to make a Shohan Ergashev fight. That's not even a big fight. That's your run-of-the-mill fight at Matchroom.
He's got to get off the island. If he can, he needs to migrate to either Matchroom or Top Rank. He needs to go where the big fights are, because so long as he stays there, he's not going to get Rolly Romero, he's not going to get Gervonta Davis, he's not going to get anything. Now upstairs at super middleweight, David Benavidez versus Demetrius Andrade is reportedly set for November 24th. David Benavidez holds the WBC's interim title, making him the mandatory challenger for the winner of Canelo versus Charlo, set to go down
later on this month.
Veteran boxing scribe Julius Julianus, who first broke the news that David Benavidez would defend his interim title against Demetrius Andrade, now brings word that the pair will square off on a November 24th PBC on Showtime pay-per-view.
I remember that Samson Lukowicz, David Benavidez's longtime promoter, several times blew off the idea that David Benavidez should face Demetrius Andrade, that Demetrius wouldn't sell a single ticket.
Why have they all of a sudden warmed up to the idea of facing this fighter, this southpaw? And it could be because, well, Demetrius, he's in his mid-30s now. He didn't look nothing special opposite the ring Damon Nicholson, who was easily stopped not that long ago by Christian Mabili,
where Demetrius couldn't put him away earlier this year.
That same Demetrius Andrade is supposed to be sharing the ring with David Benavidez November 24th. That's a Friday, for those curious. One day before Chantel Cameron's rematch with Katie Taylor. Benavidez obliterated David Lemieux for the interim title 2 Mays ago, then firmly established himself as the division's second in command by overpowering Caleb Plant 10 months later. It's a joke that he hasn't already received a mandated shot at Canelo Alvarez, but as I said before, good on him, working to eliminate any scrap of ambiguity as to whether he deserves to be next in line.
Stylistically, this fight doesn't favor Demetrius Andrade. Once again, this is the pure boxer versus the pressure fighter. Demetrius Andrade being the pure boxer, and David Benavidez being the pressure fighter.
There are a few things working against Demetrius Andrade in this fight. That he's not the harder, more prolific puncher. That's David Benavidez. That he's the older fighter. You know, he's in his mid-30s, whereas David, I think he's in his late 20s.
That Demetrius ain't got the best engine either. He gets off to a good start in most fights, but he fades down the stretch and starts to lose form.
That Demetrius doesn't have a good engine, whereas David Benavidez, he's got a great engine. He can throw punches and bunches from the opening round to the final round.
Demetrius Andrade, who's often been accused of mitigating the risks for many, many years, so much so that it's been counterintuitive.
Why is he all of a sudden taking risks? Well, maybe it's because it's now or never. Maybe it's because he's in his mid-30s and something's got to give.
Yeah.
Something's got to happen. What can he do? Is it even possible for a pure boxer to beat a pressure guy?
If he breaks character a bit.
There are one or two things working against Demetrius. There are. But there are also one or two things working against David. I don't think David has all that much experience boxing southpaws. Demetrius has got to use those angles to his advantage.
Needs every advantage.
Got to use those angles to punch David Benavidez up and assert himself early. Think Caleb Plant versus Jose Uzcategui. That early knockdown that got Jose's respect.
Caleb got his respect.
And he got it early, which can change a fighter's demeanor. If you can consistently hit them with punches they don't see, counter shots, shots upstairs, shots downstairs, keep them guessing.
You can make them gun-shy. You can make them hesitant.
Demetrius has got to let his hands go at the detriment of what could be his energy reserves. He's got to let his hands go early. Get this guy's respect. Try to.
Make him simmer down.
Try to.
Demetrius is a more unconventional boxer than, say, Caleb Plant. A pure boxer like Demetrius is a pure boxer, but there are subtle differences. Demetrius is more herky-jerky than Caleb. Less textbook.
There's got to be moments where Demetrius gets off his bike and stands his ground, asserts himself.
There have to be.
Bane, the pure boxer, is attempting to create space with the pressure fighter, and doing this so much so that it starts to look like you're getting bullied.
Eventually they are.
Can take breaks in the action, but not too many. And don't forget that David Benavidez is the house fighter.
Push comes to shove, who do you think the PBC is behind?
They take a better Demetrius Andrade than we've ever seen to win this fight. But that's the situation.
It is?
That's what he's got to do.
You signed up for this.
Personally, I think the Yanni Bekele-Mkanelai fight would have been a much easier fight than this, but no sense in crying over spilt milk.
Showtime.